Welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet and the guardians of your timeline. I'm your host, the master of mischief, Lani, and I'm joined by one of several variants that I just can't figure out if he's the right one or not anymore. This is one of the Kaisers.
People. I'm around people again. I'm around actual people again.
Oh good, I got the right one. We're here, we're back in the studio. And aside from like massive amounts of dust and all the roaches moving in, it's actually no, that's pretty much exactly how we left it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess this can come off now finally. Oh God, I'm so ugly. Jesus.
You know, when you have that on and you kind of take it off, I expect you to reveal like a big mustache or something.
Yeah, you know, I once tried to do the beard. I cannot beard. I absolutely cannot beard.
You had all that set up, all that time to prepare a gag. You just could have had like the big handlebars going. Just stubble.
No, it's actually subverting expectations for everybody who thought it might be weird. It's actually completely normal.
Speaking of subverting expectations, actually no, this doesn't subvert them at all. For this segment of the rundown, I wanted to. We're doing a larger discussion video on E3, but this is our first real chance to talk about it. And it was a terrible segue because it was all to expectations because it was
bad.
Lackluster, to say the least. I mean, you got some cool stuff like Metroid Dread, which I'm excited for. You know, an actual new thing that they announced that's coming this year. Wicked. Got a little bit of gameplay footage for Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever they're going to call it. Halo multiplayer going to be free for pretty much everybody, and so nobody's going to play the game. They'll just have the multiplayer. At least that's what I did with Halo. I was always I only played the multiplayer.
I mean, I did absolutely play a lot of the multiplayer because when it comes down to it, multiplayer in Halo is kind of the biggest thing about Halo. But I did love the main single-player campaign, and with the changes that they're making with movement, with like the grappling hook.
Yeah.
This is truly Halo Combat Evolved.
Yeah, going all the way to evolve the combat of Halo Combat Evolved, and I don't know. I really liked playing through Reach with you, Taka, and Gon like nearly a decade ago now.
Oh my God!
I'm sure those videos still exist. I uploaded all the TFS Plays Classics to the gaming channel, but that was a fun one. Halo Reach still probably my favorite Halo game.
Yeah, honestly, out of all the Halos that I've ever played, it's the one with like just the best levels, a lot of the best weapons, the best balance. Mm-hmm. I honestly I can't think of another Halo that, except for maybe Halo 5. That one, no.
I don't even, I was gonna say, I don't think you even had an X-Bone. We had one here in the office, and we played Killer Instinct on it, and that is all. I
really liked Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct's good. It's a good fighting game. No sign of it here,
yeah.
But.
Honestly, this E3 was exactly what I was expecting it to be. Completely lackluster. A bunch of videos, barely any gameplay from most of the studios. Some interesting announcements here and there. Nintendo, it's pretty universal.
It was
Nintendo
it was
dominated.
Xbox and Nintendo that had anything really to show. There's all the issues surrounding Ubisoft. They had a couple of neat things to show off here and there, but really it's just more Ubisoft open world stuff. And
I mean, the only thing I care about from Ubisoft, and I'm saying this as a guy who doesn't even play the actual. Can I get the camera on me, maybe? Thank you. I never actually even played the first game, but every time I see anything coming out of Mario and the Rabbids, I get kind of psyched because it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a really fun game, and I know a lot of people who played the first one who are super psyched for the second one, and for some reason, they announced it the day before the actual E3 showing, which is why would you do that?
It's I don't know, it's a cute game. It's like baby's first XCOM, and plays like it, but it's fun. I don't know, just everything with E3 it left me with a lot of questions, like why was Capcom even there? Yeah. There were just so many things that happened with this E3. We'll have a larger video where Zito, Quinn, and I discuss a whole bunch of stuff about it. But was there anything from it that you took away from it saying oh, that was actually kind of neat, that's something I'm looking forward to?
Metroid Dread. And I say that as a guy who didn't grow up playing a lot of Metroid, but Metroid Dread 1 just looks really good, and 2, man, the Metroid fans, I know a couple of them, their cup runneth over with Metroid Dread. That and Breath of the Wild 2, which that's not its name, but the next Zelda game looks fucking amazing. Like, holy crap, it looks like everything that was in Breath of the Wild with a bunch of new amazing crap. I'm so psyched.
They could easily just do more Breath of the Wild and I'd be satisfied. Like, that's all that, like, you know, this feels like it's going to be what Majora's Mask was to Ocarina of Time, just more of the same, but like with a twist, and I'm cool with that.
I hope it's darker. I actually would love to see them go a darker route with this particular, because the last one had dark moments, but that's a Zelda game. They all have some dark moments in
The
them.
first trailer we got had that like that whole like tomb with the Lich coming out, so I feel like it's going to kind of go that way, but you never really know. I'm excited for more open world adventure on that. On another note, something that, speaking of horrifying and dark, what do you think of, like, the trailer for it just dropped this morning?
Oh, God,
Netflix's, what the hell was it called?
Sexy Beast.
Sexy Beasts.
Sexy Beasts.
Kaiser, as the resident furry, please tell us everything.
So Jesse made the perfect tweet about it, which was, wait until you find the one guy who realizes that he was way more into the person with the animal stuff on. And then when they take it off, they're not interested anymore. And I responded with, oh, yeah, that's what we call the Beast from Beauty and the Beast phenomenon. And
yeah, where like when he turns back into the beast, or when he turns back into him, it's like, oh, really?
Yeah, and then somebody give it the perfect name. It's Belle's Dilemma. Yeah.
Can we recurse you, maybe? I don't know. If all your people don't have to be furniture, although admittedly a lot of them look better as furniture too, can we just do something like that?
Oh man, how do you phrase that? I think you looked better as a teapot.
You just, it worked for you. And how did you have, did your children stay children forever while you were a teapot? Did they grow?
A lot of questions there about the anatomical possibilities of kitchenware.
But yeah, the whole premise behind Sexy Beasts is you got these like amazing makeup artists. Like the trailer, the prosthetics that they put on these people, they look really cool. You got somebody that looks like they have like a dolphin face or something.
The really cool one was actually the fucking mantis person.
There's a mantis person. There's like a panda person. Like they got some real cool prosthetic work going into that. I can't imagine how uncomfortable it is wearing that. But
yeah, I the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my god, you're supposed to go on a date wearing this crap? Like most people in movies, when they have to wear that shit, cannot wait to get out of it. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine going on a date and having a good time with that stuff.
And it takes like 10 hours to put that shit on too.
Oh yeah.
So so they go out on essentially a blind date with each other, each of them wearing this like animal face or something. Somebody was like a demon, so I guess it could be any creature.
Oh yeah, the devil lady.
But you also run into this problem of, okay, I don't know what their face looks like. God damn it, am I dating a 9 or a 10? Am I dating a model or a supermodel? I need to know!
Well, I mean, there's this one shot where, like, I can't remember what animal or what she was supposed to be, but she comes in there, and the guy just looks left and sees, neck down, banger! Mm-hmm. Just a banger! And it's like, okay, your face, it's gotta be the worst butterface in the world for this to not be like, I mean, at that point, you just hope to God that she's also got a personality to match, because otherwise, she's definitely covered.
Yeah, it kind of takes away from the whole blind date aspect of it when they are all essentially models.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you get cast in these shows. You don't pull people off the street. You go to an agency and that's the thing about reality television. All of these people have agents that are getting them in on it.
It may be an agency. It might also have been a casting call. They might have.
It's absolutely an agency.
Yeah, that's very likely. All I'm saying is it's also possible that they reached out for local people. I
have no doubt there were auditions, but
yeah, but ultimately, yeah, they're all incredibly hot. That is, there's no way that person under the Panda mask is like anything below a conventional 7.
Nobody on there has Instagram followers below 100,000, guaranteed.
Very possibly.
Guaranteed. But that is, I don't know. Like it's something that I'm not surprised was eventually like made into something after all those years of, let's have these shows on Sci-Fi where we try to make like the coolest makeup and like try to get the.
Well, it's sort of weird in that, because I feel like reality television kind of started off really wacky, like let's do some crazy stuff, and then they realized people weren't so much into the crazy stuff, and now we've rebounded into stuff that you would have seen like back in the fucking 80s, 90s, stuff that...
Early 2000s, I think, was when you were hitting like a lot of that stuff, when they started doing more of the gimmick, like some of the more gimmicky reality television stuff, like the Joe Schmo Show, what was it, Murder in Small Town X? Like they were starting to do some like real gimmicks with it as opposed to just being like Survivor.
Fun thing about this isn't new. This is actually from like I think BBC 4.
Is it?
Yeah, this is...
That doesn't surprise me.
This is years old. They were doing this back in fucking England in 2016, I think. So yeah, this isn't new. It's just new for us, and I do not like it. I should also point out that when we talk about things like conventional beauty and whatnot, ultimately that shouldn't necessarily matter.
It's the eye of the beholder, but let's be honest.
It's also like completely gaming the system of like, do they look good underneath? Yes, they do. We know that they do. Don't act like they're not going to be conventionally attractive underneath the panda mask.
Yeah, they're all basically models.
Yeah.
So you're not really running the risk of. Odds are none of them are really going to end up dating by the end of it anyway, because that's just reality television.
Yeah, none of those relationships are going to last. Anybody who thinks that relationships from reality TV shows ever last, I think it's like 1 in 100, and I mean like statistically likely 1 in 100. Actually,
not to say that you can't develop like real actual relationships on those shows. It's just when you're on camera, you're told to play this stuff up. So oftentimes, like it happens in movies a lot too, where some of like the lead characters will start dating. I think one of the more recent examples I can think of was Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield in what was it, Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And then the second one where they were already dating, so they just let them play off each other.
Which they were the best part. I'm sorry, but they were the best part of that movie in terms of like character dynamics. They were,
but they were also the reason that movie was like a half hour too long, because their scenes never stopped because they just let them go.
Well, it's like, oh look, they're so cute together. We're just gonna let them talk for 10 minutes of being cute, and it's like, okay, all right, fine, sure.
How many hours of footage was on the cutting room floor of just them flirting on screen? Like, probably uncountable.
Yeah.
But speaking of Netflix, also released recently, at least since the last time I was on a Talkcast Podshow, Bo Burnham's Inside. He continues to be probably my favorite comedian philosopher in general, just with how well he suits his material to the media that he puts it on.
I wonder how he would personally respond to being called a comedian philosopher.
I think, well, that's just me. I think comedians are kind of a modern day philosopher, because, what is a philosopher but somebody that questions the convention of life? And that's what a comedian does. That's what Bo Burnham does very well.
Actually, in that regard, so Bo Burnham himself has already directly stated that he took a lot of inspiration from George Carlin.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. A lot of the things that he talks about are punching up at power structures, at convention.
Including power structures that he himself is a part of.
Yes, and the entire special is basically just him, first, reflecting on the last year and the isolation that we've all felt. But
the year
also,
that he's going through, yeah.
Yeah, but also talking about a lot of subjects that have been really hot for the last... I'd say year and a half.
Welcome to the Internet was a real strong song. I have that one on my playlist.
There are 3 songs from it that I think are must listens to for everybody.
Welcome to the Internet.
Welcome to the Internet. How the World Works.
Oh, with the sock puppet.
That one is hard. And the other one is White Woman.
White Woman's Instagram.
Yeah. That one, I actually listen to on a regular basis.
That one was more of like a fluff piece, just to like bring the mood, like kind of shift the mood, which he's really good about doing in his shows. I really liked the bit where he was doing a commentary track over like the little intern song that he did, and then it just kept going and really give you like some insight into how he sees himself. And then there are these like those really powerful moments where you see him like actually breaking down, and you're wondering, because Bo Burnham's a really good actor, is he doing that as a bit? Is this something that took multiple takes like so many of the other things that we've seen him do? Or is this him reacting genuinely? And that question is kind of part of the presentation here. One of the most powerful pieces was probably the quietest, most somber piece for me, which was him just sitting in front of a clock saying like, hey, I wanted to have this done by now, but I'm turning 30 at midnight, so I'm just going to sit here in silence while my 20s disappear. And you just sit there and watch the clock tick over. Okay. And then he keeps going. Just
As somebody who is now 34 as of this year,
it bothers me that Bo Burnham's younger than me.
Yeah, there was nothing that bothered me more than when I was watching TV and I was seeing people show up that were younger than me. I wasn't used to that. Like, I was used to child actors, but I'm like, well, of course, they're children. But now I'm seeing these full-grown adult actors who are younger than me, and I'm not okay with it.
This guy's supposed to be playing somebody older than me, but he's younger than me, and he...
Yeah. But yeah, Bo Burnham, honestly, if I had to be honest, I think all of Bo Burnham's stuff was most likely not actually 100% him going off the cuff. He probably did have to do some retakes, especially with a lot of the framing and how he worked with the footage. But that's beside the point. Ultimately, like, the special's very good. It's one of his best. I highly recommend it. It's
very strong.
Yeah.
Definite high recommendation for me. But with that, we can move on to the quote-unquote meat of this conversation, even though I think we're only about 15 minutes in.
Okay. So let's move away from Netflix and then to Disney Plus.
Yeah, from one streaming service to another. Let's talk about Loki. Now, going into this show, I had a few thoughts of like what this was going to be. Like, was it going to be Disney doing basically Doctor Who, but with Loki as he's like traveling through like space and time?
The answer is a little bit yes.
Kind of,
yeah. It's a little bit yes.
It's a little bit yes. But I was wondering if it was going to be all about him like trying to master the Tesseract and, you know, slowly drip feed like some of the stuff from that he should have learned.
That's actually what I was expecting too. I was expecting a little bit more like he's on his own, and that's not the case.
No, he's paired very brilliantly with Owen Wilson, who basically making a return performance here, I think for the first time since Zoolander 2.
Yeah, this is one of his... No, actually, he had a couple of films after Zoolander 2. I can't
Cars
remember.
3, I guess.
Yes, Cars 3. Cars 3 was one of the last big films that he actually was in.
But this is Owen Wilson coming back in. I think he plays his character up wonderfully. What's his character's name again? I'm having a hard...
Is it... Shit, it's a time-related thing.
It is, and that's why it's bothering me that I can't... Morpheus. Yeah. Mobius.
Yeah,
Mobius.
like Mobius strip.
Yeah,
okay,
that's what
yeah,
it was.
It's Mobius.
Thank you, Tyler.
As you fuck around.
Sorry.
Just adjusting for sound's sake. Welcome back.
I had one person say it was echoey, and I was like, no.
It's going to be. We haven't audio treated this area, so
unfortunately,
it's just the way of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Owen Wilson, who plays Mobius, like wonderfully, like he has all that charm that you expect from Owen Wilson. He looks old, and that bothered me since the last time I'd seen him. I'm not sure how much of that is makeup and how much of that is just Owen Wilson being old.
That man was a full-grown adult man in his 20s when I was a little kid. I mean, that's just gonna... Unfortunately, one of the things I had to come to terms with was I'm gonna see people who were in their teens and their 20s when I was a kid growing up watching their films. I'm gonna have to grow up and like see them get older with me.
I remember the first time I had that feeling was... I can't remember which movie it was, but there was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that came out back in like the early 2010s. It was like a nothing action movie, but he looked so old in that. I'm like, wow, this like, and you know, like, growing up watching Terminator, True Lies, things like that. It's like, wow, he's playing like the grizzled old man now, but now Keanu is the grizzled old man for a while. Okay, so like, you had Arnold. Then you had Stallone coming in for the Expendables.
Jean-Claude was kind of there for a time.
Kinda, but when you're a tertiary character in the Expendables, you kind of tie it in there. But then you had Liam Neeson coming in for Taken. Now you have Keanu in John Wick.
Yeah.
That's the revenge dad. Revenge dad, basically.
But Loki.
Loki.
Where Owen Wilson is playing a bit of an older guy. Owen Wilson. A lot of people said that he was the show stealer, and I'm not going to say he's not great.
No, he's great.
I've actively really come to like the dynamic between him and Loki. It is actually exceptionally good.
Yeah, they have a good buddy cop dynamic going.
Yeah, it's a very done to death formula of a guy who's a little bit more dedicated to the job versus the guy who you don't know if you can trust him, but he's learning to trust and love again. And honestly, I wasn't even sure about this when it started. I avoided watching any episodes until literally yesterday when I watched all 3 episodes. And I am more hooked on this than I think I was either WandaVision or Falcon
and Soldier I'll definitely agree with you on, because Falcon and Winter Soldier just, it felt very like, let's go back to basics on Marvel.
Yeah.
But, how much are you really going to do with that concept? But WandaVision, I think, definitely grabbed my attention a bit more with its concept.
It did more immediately for me.
Yes.
Like, the first episode of WandaVision is better than the first episode of Loki. But after the 3rd episode of Loki, I am like, what the fuck are they gonna do?
They do a lot of really cool, like, interesting visual elements in Loki. Like, they have these weapons that just dissolve somebody from the center out, which is really cool. Like, some of the visual effects are really cool, especially the set designs.
Yeah.
Especially in the most recent episode where they were doing a lot of cool stuff with color. You got some really cool set design for the world that they're trying to build. I remember seeing some sort of an interview, or maybe a snippet of an interview, where the person in charge of Loki, like the show, was saying that he wanted to do what James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Take this universe that you're familiar with, but inject something unfamiliar to the audience to get them ready for, what exactly the expanse of this universe is. And they do so very well with basically the Lords of Time.
Yeah. There was a huge expansion in the lore here, which we have flirted with cosmic Marvel many times, but a lot of it has just actually been space stuff for the most part. We had the Asgardians, which had all of its own, like, magic / science / whatever it is.
Yeah, you introduced, like, the magic with Doctor Strange and how, like, sometimes people can manipulate the cosmic energy. But you had the Infinity Stones, which had their own weird rules about them, and then you introduced time travel in Infinity War, or not Infinity War, but Endgame. And now you see the expansion into what does that mean? What do you mean there's multiple timelines?
Yeah, this feels like it is every bit of the stuff that Iron Man was afraid to, back when Iron Man and Captain America, and those were the first couple of movies where they were like a little bit afraid of, like, do we really want to get into the cosmic stuff? No, this is purely, all of it is the cosmic shit, the magic shit, the gods shit, gods beyond gods, the Watchers, those motherfuckers. Like, this is, if you grew up with Marvel and you really, really loved all that shit and you were waiting for this, you've got to be so happy because
you got it now.
Yeah, and also I'm super duper happy that, okay, I don't like Disney. I want it to be on the record. I don't like Disney, and I don't like the fact that they have control over every goddamn thing in our lives. And I have really softened on Marvel. And so when I say this, I want it to be with that caveat. I'm really glad they're putting the money in production into making this such a cool looking and feeling story. This looks and feels like a movie. I was watching it, I'm like, okay, be more than either WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, the production values in this are...
Yeah, this looks continuously, unapologetically, aggressively like an actual Marvel film, and that's nuts!
Yeah, this is something that you'd expect from... an HBO show, that kind of level of production value that they put into it. Okay, a good HBO show, early seasons of Game of Thrones, like that type of production value being thrown into it. And there are some things that are a little like uncanny valley. You can tell where some of the practical sets end and where the digital constructs begin. Like there's this elevator shot where they're going down an elevator, and it's a really cool building. It looks like a nice futuristic building, and then there's this big old CG statue of the 3 timekeepers sitting in the middle. It's like, yeah, okay, I can tell that's fake. The rest of this is for the most part real, except for maybe some of the levels on that. But
yeah,
you end up with some really good visual effects. You got some really good, like, you play with color really well, especially in the latest episode, which did a lot of things with like purples and greens, to the point that I almost felt like it was a motif to an effect. And the story, which didn't really pull me in the first episode, has been reeling me in more and more as we've gone on.
I think the thing that kind of really helped me was the first really clever and cool moment was when Loki points out that the other Loki, the variant Loki, is hiding in apocalypses.
Yeah.
That was such a cool idea. Like, if you want to talk about a way to use your premise and then turn it on its head in a way that is both really clever and just prime for cool bullshit to happen, like, they go to fucking Pompeii, and I'm like, oh, that's nuts, that's crazy.
Just to test to see if, like, hey, if I do something crazy here, will the timeline notice? Or if the fact that this place is about to blow up and everyone's going to die, would it even matter if I run in there and just, like, start dropping future tech or something?
Which is also prime for really, how do I put this? Dark humor.
Yes.
Like, it's and
which
now
is perfect for Loki.
Yeah, it's a bit arguably necessarily fatalistic. Like, yeah, no, these people are gonna die. We can't change it. So hey, we're just gonna make some jokes. We're gonna have fun in this moment where a bunch of people, an entire civilization, is about to be wiped out. And it works. God help me. It works really well. Tom Hiddleston is knocking it out of the park with Owen Wilson.
Yeah, he's having a lot of fun. He's having a lot of fun there. But you say fatalistic, but that's kind of the point, where you have these three, deities essentially who actively control the timeline and are the ones that decide where it ends. Who to the point where you inject Loki and all the Lokis of various forms who are supposed to represent mischief, chaos, and whatnot, as kind of the perfect foil to that sort of a dynamic of this group wants ultimate control over the entirety of all space and time. So you bring in the god of mischief, who's like, who are these people to decide who's in charge? Why did they get to decide how the timeline gets to go? And so you end up with this interesting power struggle of, is fate really a thing, or can it be denied? And you're starting to get a lot of more interesting nuances into why the timekeepers aren't the best people, probably, if they are even people. So
yeah, well, and I did find a certain amount of humor, like when she's like, hey, you're the one working for the space fascists. And it's like, the more we learn, maybe they kind of are. Because they keep talking about the sacred timeline, and honestly, I can see why that would be a necessary thing to protect. You want to make sure that things play out the way that they're supposed to, so chaos doesn't happen. But they are actively going out of their way to, apparently wipe people's memories from when they were normal people.
They're indoctrinating people into their service to join into this cabal of timekeepers. I'm interested to see where this goes. Spoilers, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean that should be kind of implied here. No, I hope there was.
But so I like the idea that they've had to deal with so many variants of Loki because of that, because he is kind of chaos embodied, mischief embodied, that he doesn't like to play by other people's rules, and these three people are the rules.
Yeah, I like one of my favorite moments actually, when he finally realizes how out of his depth he actually is when he comes across a bunch of Infinity Stones, and he realizes that if even the Infinity Stones
they don't work outside of space and time, apparently, or wherever they are.
If the people there play with Infinity Stones like paperweights, he is completely out of his depth. There's no way that and that's the part where he actually stops arguing. That's the part where he accepts, nope, whatever I wanted to do, whatever I had in mind, I can't get it the way that I conventionally wanted, so I have to play along.
Yeah, whatever I had in mind with these Infinity Stones, it's not going to work. Their technology either negates their use here, or the fact that they've been pulled from their own timelines negates their use. Really hard to say exactly what the rules are there, because he still has ways of getting one up on them. Clearly his magic still works against the people.
Yeah, in the real world,
yes,
specifically.
Only inside of space and time. the whole Nexus area that they go to is very like, I don't necessarily understand the rules of that place other than the rules that you're used to don't apply there.
Well, speaking of the Nexus, I want to talk about something that's a little bit more aesthetic. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the anachronistic setting, like the anachronistic technology that they've utilized to do all this futuristic shit?
The fact that a lot of it looks very analog, kind of going back to how the future tech looked in Alien, sort of. But they still have holograms and little light up sticks that can melt somebody's actual time essence.
Yeah, I the moment we see, I can't remember what her name is, voiced by Tara Strong.
Oh, the little clock.
Yeah, the little clock, which, by the way, love the clock. I thought, okay, it's just here for
it's a cute little logo
Yeah,
character.
but then it becomes like, it's actually a character that comes back, and I'm about that? Also, good for Tara Strong. Yeah. She deserves, like, she's one of the best
She's a fancy lady.
She's one of the best voice actresses in the industry, and I'm glad to see her in a big production like this. But yeah, no, that character is fun, and I love how she plays into the, as I said, the anachronistic design aesthetic that they went.
Loki, are you paying attention?
The accent kind of comes and goes.
Yeah. The one thing that I don't think I was super huge on is they kind of almost necessarily had to speed run Loki to become the Loki he was by the end of Ragnarok. And I'm not sure I liked the way they did that, just by showing him the events of his life, basically.
Well, I think they didn't speedrun him too much. I think what he is now is he is a new Loki. I don't think he is the one at the end of Ragnarok. I think he's one...
But they had to mellow him out. They had to first of all humble him, which, they did by showing like, yeah, no, we have way more power here than you will ever know. And they had to show him that all of his choices that he was making on his current timeline, first of all, they didn't lead him to what he wanted, but then, he ended up kind of being happy anyway, and he ended up even siding with the brother that he hated all of his life, just to end up, basically making sure that the timeline that he was on, he made enough mistakes, and he needed to notice that in order to change his perspective. So they needed to make him not evil.
Yeah. By the way, side note, maybe I'm a bad Marvel fan. I actually was not sure if Loki was actually dead in Ragnarok. I was setting.
I think
aside
after
hope.
This, it's pretty heavily implied. Yeah, he's like.
Yeah, I don't think it's implied. I think it is outright confirmed.
Not Ragnarok, but Infinity War at the beginning of it.
Yes, yeah, Infinity War. I think it's absolutely confirmed. Loki's dead now.
The fact that he didn't come back in Endgame was probably that Loki didn't come back in Endgame.
Yeah. Though what they did to ensure that Loki's legacy could survive was actually really brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll give it to it.
No, once that happened in Endgame, you're like, ah.
Yeah, I was kind of eager to see exactly where they were going to go with that, and so far, I am not disappointed. Surprised, but not disappointed. Because I was hoping for something funny and weird and crazy and smart, and that is what I'm getting. I feel like it's still constrained a little bit by, Disney's Marvel's conventions.
Yeah.
Though, okay, I'll admit, there was a part of me that was a little bit happy when he flat out said that he had dated both men and women. That was actually kind of nice. It's something, again, that can easily be cut out for other places all over the world, so it's barely anything. But it's kind of nice.
I wonder if they wanted to make an even deeper implication into Norse lore, because canonically Norse lore. In Norse lore, Loki is the father or the mother of the horse Sleipnir, because he lured off a. Do you know the story behind that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know the whole story, but I do know the story.
Essentially, he had made a deal with some giants to build a wall for Asgard. And he's like, hey, he got the other gods to say, if you can do this, you can have the goddess Freya as your wife. If you can do this in one season. And he's like, I can do that. And so he goes off with his massive horse, and the horse is pulling back all these slabs of marble, and he's getting this wall done, and everybody's like, Loki, you got us into this, you son of a bitch, you get us out. He's like, okay. So he turns into a female horse, transforms himself into a female horse, lures off the stallion, so the guy can't carry back the rest of his rocks on the last night. And then Thor beats the dude to death.
Loki took one for the team.
Took one for the team, and then he had a little six-legged foal following him around that was just loved him so much. Turned into Odin's horse, I believe.
Norse mythology.
Norse mythology is fun.
That's the word.
It is.
And that's the F word that I was going to use.
It absolutely is.
But I will say, also in the show, again, something that can be nice and easily cut out. It is confirmed that he is gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Like he goes by he and whatnot, but like if you look at the actual the fucking like file, which it's nice.
It's a blink and you miss it kind of thing.
It's just they're saying the thing that the comics have been saying for a while, that Norse mythology is kind of hinted at for a while, that when it comes to Loki, not really concerned with all that.
But when it comes to the foreign market, you can change it immediately if you have to. Just that's going to look completely different in Chinese.
Yeah, yeah. But whatever. I'm not here to be too cynical. Because if I want
because it's a good thing that like you want to lean into more of that.
Yeah. Like, and if I wanted to be cynical, I could be cynical for a whole hour and a half, easy. So I don't want to do that though. That was honestly, I like this show.
Yeah.
I was, and I avoided the first couple of episodes like the plague because I was like, if this show is disappointing, then I may just tune out of Marvel altogether. That is honestly how burnt out I have been.
Well, let's be honest. Over the past year, what have we been doing? All we've been doing week to week is sitting inside and watching whatever media we could on the streaming services. Excuse me. So, you had WandaVision. It's like, yay. You had Falcon and Winter Soldier. And, so you're just sitting inside watching show after show on kind of like a monthly cycle as they started coming out. And, yeah, I'm a bit burned out on a lot of media myself, frankly, just because of that. Because that's what 2020 was. But it's nice now that we're able to actually go outside and
get conveyor belt sushi.
Yeah, conveyor belt sushi. And you're able to enjoy Loki, which I thoroughly have been, especially once they revealed the variant that they've been hunting. Because the premise of the show is that since pretty much every Loki has had to be exterminated because all of them went against the timeline in one way, shape, or form.
I like, okay, by the way, what a clever fucking way to do this. The fact that, so when it was doing the different kinds of Loki, I'm like, okay, so is this going to just be like different timelines, different things?
I like the one with the gorilla arms. And
that one, all of them look...
I'm sure they're all references to deeper comic lore, too.
I hope so. But it is really great to see the fact that Loki is a universal constant. Mm-hmm. That there are different kinds of variants.
There is always a Loki.
There's always a Loki variant, at least one that causes some sort of shit.
There's always a lighthouse. There's always a Loki. So yeah, Loki is a constant, and it was a very, very interesting way to introduce Enchantress.
Is that who we're following?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know shit about who this person is.
The only reason I knew is because I played all the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. Well, I played 1 and 2, and Enchantress was a big part of that. She's also one of my favorite parts in Ash versus Marvel's, or Evil Dead versus the Marvel Zombies, one of those spin-off comics. She had a fun little bit in that. But yeah, she played a big part, I think, in the second Ultimate Alliance game. And that comic, so when they introduced her and when she gave her name, that was basically the confirmation for me. When Loki showed up and it was a woman, I'm like, who had the ability to, mind swap in people, I'm thinking, okay, so is that Enchantress? And then they dropped the name, I'm like, Enchantress.
Which, by the way, I guess spoilers?
We said spoilers a while ago.
Yeah, but I feel like this is spoilers. I didn't know that. I didn't know she was Enchantress.
Oh, my bad? I don't know. It's not a big spoiler.
I feel like knowing her name that she'll have, unless the name is a huge deal.
I don't even think they're going to, because I think the only service they are going to play to that was lip service in the most recent episode when he said, "What, are you going to enchant me?" I think that was the lip service they're playing to that, because let's be fair, hero names are kind of gauche. You don't really need them when you're just telling a story. Giving her first name is just fine.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, ultimately, I I also really like that character. I wasn't expecting like the dynamic between her and Loki to immediately touch off the way it did. Also,
I expected way more of a power dynamic struggle in that first episode after how the previous one ended. But then, like, almost immediately on an even playing field. Interesting.
Yeah, they're synergizing incredibly well in a way that I don't think is supposed to be romantic.
No.
Although
I think in the comics, comic continuity is weird. I think, like, for a while I thought she was Loki's daughter, but I think in some instances she was introduced as his love interest, so they might play that up, but I don't actually think they will.
I actually hope they don't. I really hope that they don't. I really hope that they don't, because
I don't think they will. If they go with because they asked a question this episode about family, and she was real cagey about that. So they might actually go with the angle that she's his daughter.
That would be kind of cool. I would actually think that would be really neat.
Like, she's the daughter of another variant Loki who got exterminated by the Time Patrol, and so maybe this is where she's coming from. We'll learn more about that as we go. This is just pure speculation.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? Fuck, man. I'm actually kind of hoping for that.
I mean, let's be fair. As Guardians to Loki's even mention, they live thousands of years, so they just kind of stop aging when they hit the peak maturity. Even though he's a ice giant, but whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see, because I'm eager for the next episode. I was so angry that this episode was shorter than the last one, and it ended in the worst place.
It ended in such an odd. I love that planet that they were on. It looked really cool.
You were talking about great set design? Yeah, that was wild. That was crazy. That is but yeah, no, that was the perfect place to end, because it was right after that explosion.
Whoops.
Yep. And yeah. I mean, going on any further after that, I don't know. I loved it. I hate it. I hate it so much, but I also love it.
It's a fun show, and that's something that I think we just kind of need. It's a show that you can have a lot of fun watching, and Tom Hiddleston has been great. I don't know the actress who plays. I think it's Sylvia or Silva.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either, and yet she feels familiar.
Yeah, she's very good. And Owen Wilson, who was not in this whole episode, the whole recent episode, was sadly missing.
I do want to point out something. At the end of episode 2, she does that crazy thing where she sets off all of those.
All the time eraser bombs, and then they go through different portals.
Yeah, and we haven't really followed up on that. I'm wondering if we're supposed to, or if that was just a way for her to basically distract them all while she infiltrated. Is that going to have any
It has to have some ramification, because you saw the charts as they were sitting in there watching, and the timeline's branching like freaking Yggdrasil, going crazy.
I think that was basically just sending all those people off.
To empty the space.
Yeah, I think that was primarily what that was about, which if that's the case, if that's literally all that was supposed to be, I'll deal. But it was also this big moment of oh wow, that could have big, amazing ramifications, and maybe it doesn't.
Did they go in how those time bombs work? Because when they showed it off the first time, it basically erased everything in that area of Mongolia that Loki showed up in.
Well, if you notice,
does it destroy the whole that whole branch of the timeline, or just the variants?
All variant energy.
Okay.
If you'll notice, they can read variant energy, and what that does, it literally destroys it. And that's why when they use it at the Renaissance Fair, it doesn't destroy the set, just their things. Just the things that weren't in the place that they were supposed to be in. I think what it probably does is it breaks it down and then reconstitutes it in the place that they're supposed to be. It would have been really nice to see some of the stuff that had been broken down put back into place to really kind of hammer that home. But that's what I had to kind of assume that it is. The entire idea is reset.
So when Owen Wilson gave that one girl candy, did she just walk out of the room, eat some of that candy, and then?
I think so. That's sort of interesting. No, what he does, he takes the candy away and then gives it to the guy. It's kind of likely that the variance there was so small that he didn't have to do anything, or they set off a bomb and that got taken care of. Who knows?
Yeah, because Loki even made like a mention of like, oh yeah, and you set off those bombs and just destroy everybody, but whatever. And that's what kind of like leads into that like interesting dynamic of the time fascists.
Yeah, they're taking away it is fucking with their free will, but then again, you have any government structure and inevitably you have some sort of free will that has
Weird power imbalance.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what.
Yeah, and there was a whole lot of like obvious political messagery in some of these episodes as well, especially given the fact that so many of those massive apocalypse level disasters are, relatively 30 years in the future from now in America.
Yeah, I want to actually talk a little bit about the Roxxon, is it Roxxcore?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Their Amazon Walmart affiliate, like the allegory.
Yeah, when it was talking about, Alabama's going to get hit by floods, and I'm like, hey, guess what? That's the future.
It also sadly just happened too. Like a tropical storm hit Alabama. I don't think casualties were incredibly high, but still.
Was it Alabama or Arkansas?
Alabama.
Okay. I mean, sorry, in the show.
Oh, both.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I am surprised that the show is taking the stance that it is on, hey, but guess what? Climate disasters are only going to get worse, and if we don't do anything about them, we're all fucked.
And then it also kind of plays it tongue in cheek, where, oh yeah, we have a hurricane sale. The plants are something % off, or we're just trying. I mean, I know that was an enchanted person, but still. They do a lot of weird tongue-in-cheek stuff with this apocalypse-level tropical storm.
I mean, it's gotta have good comedy.
I started reading American Gods, which does feature Loki in that as well.
Oh shit!
Loki, as Loki says, gallows humor is the best humor, I guess.
Funny enough, I'm actually in the middle of American Gods. I've been doing the audiobook, which, by the way, audiobook, mwah. Perfect.
Good stuff. I'm early in on it.
Yeah. It gets real good. I highly recommend it. If you guys are into like gods and stuff and interacting with people, American Gods, real fucking good.
Speaking of Neil Gaiman, I actually read through his collection of Norse mythology, which is where I pulled that Loki story from earlier. So
nice.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman, hell of an author, interesting fella. Just.
Actually, a real cool thing is that in the Audible special edition, like the basically director's cut version of the book that he did for the audiobook, he reads all the Coming to America stuff, which is all really cool because you get to hear the tone of which he wants to communicate the way that things break down, and he is it's really effective. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah, I mean, take it from the author to put the oomph into it the way they need to put the oomph into it.
You wouldn't expect, like, when you hear an author, you don't necessarily believe that they have the chops to really communicate.
Neil Gaiman does, though.
Neil Gaiman absolutely does. But yeah, do we have anything else to talk about? I feel like I'm kind of exhausted myself on Loki. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Oh, when it comes to Loki itself, the only thing I have left is speculation, which I already kind of went into.
Yeah.
They are left in kind of a no-win scenario right now at the end of this episode. I'm willing to bet it'll have something to do with like Owen Wilson finding them, but how is the question? I'm not really sure where they're going to go from here.
It would be really funny if their interaction with that old lady, the one whose husband.
She's definitely important.
Yeah. The reason they can't find them right now is because they have no variance energy. What if she does something? What if the old woman does something crazy and weird that causes enough variance that it changes the timeline, and Owen Wilson picks up on that and comes to save them?
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, they're going to need to do something that would change the timeline of an apocalypse level threat.
Yeah, or at least change. Because anything that happens during that apocalypse can't affect the world outside it, because the entire world, everything
is
there
going to be destroyed.
So the old woman would have to do something completely crazy but who knows? I have no idea. That's the only thing that I've got in my mind. The writers could do something weird, and that makes sense, and that works. We'll have to see.
That's a point for next Wednesday. But what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments if you're checking on YouTube. If you're here live, this is the first time we haven't been able to look at chat during this in a little over a year. But hey, we'll be back with you here shortly during the post show. But let us know what you think. How have you been enjoying Loki? And we'll see you guys next time on the Talkcast Pod Show.
Bye.